that was the very first time I had like thought of a lactation consultant. I didn't even know if I needed one.
I recall when you came to the office, the breast milk supply had gone really low.
Yeah.
The baby was latching very poorly, and we were mostly formula feeding, right?
Yes. I think you sent back a message saying, oh, that's a poor latch and this and that. I can help with all of that. I was like, you can? I'm coming.
You can find someone with liters and liters of water, of porridge, of katonkuma, of what. But the issue that's causing her breastfeeding problems is there's something wrong with her demand.
Keep building the pressure without necessarily getting the right help to just help me get into the path of like, do the breastfeeding well. I just kept searching videos. Hey, then I'm looking up.
What were the outcomes of just having that knowledge and that professional support? How are you now?
I think those are some things that you should say today about this whole formula, breast milk, fed is best, breast is best. Banage, what is best? At this point, yeah, are we just going about it blinded, or is there actual, like, factual information? And if I'm using the formula, am I killing my baby?
Baba.
Hello, and you're very welcome to the Breastfeeding Uganda podcast. We are going to be discussing all things breastfeeding. My name is Rebecca Ssuubi, International Board Certified Lactation Consultant. In short, that's an IBCLC. So usually when I introduce myself as an IBCLC and someone who is working in the field of breastfeeding and human lactation, most people are curious to know what exactly are you doing? Who goes to school to study about breastfeeding? Who needs that? Something as simple as get my breast and put in a baby's mouth. Who needs help with that? So today we'll be talking about that. And just to kickstart our conversation today, most times when women get pregnant, they'll prepare for every single thing except breastfeeding. Why? Because they expect that it's going to be a matter of get my breast, put in the baby's mouth, and we'll have a go at it and it will be successful. So you'll find they do the baby showers, they buy the clothes, they do everything. But the one thing they never really think about needing help with is breastfeeding. If you're a mother and you're watching this, or a father, you know very well that breastfeeding may not exactly be straightforward. You'll find someone who expected breastfeeding to be a walk in the park. They come and they don't have milk. They didn't plan to give formula, but in the first day they really find themselves giving formula. They are having a lot of pain in the nipples when they breastfeed. Their breast milk is running out. The baby is failing to latch. We have mothers who just discover after giving birth that they have nipples that are not exactly protruding, so they may be flat or inverted, and all sorts of problems. So today we want to talk about some of these breastfeeding challenges that we get when we just delivered. And in the studio with me today, I'm actually hosting one of my clients. She's a first-time mom. She's going to share with us her experience with breastfeeding after giving birth, and how she ended up in my office for a consultation session. What happened? So her name is Maggie. In some circles, she's known as DJ Hash. But today she's here as Maggie. She's here as a first-time mother. She's here as a breastfeeding mother. And I'm so excited to have her here with me. Let's welcome Maggie.
Thank you. I'm always torn between saying doctor, but I've been categorically corrected. She's an IBCLC, so we don't say Dr. Rebecca or Dr. Becky. No. Yes, but I'm happy to be here.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
So I'm eager to hear about what happened when you are pregnant and you're excited to have your first baby.
Yeah.
What did you expect breastfeeding to go as? Did you even think about it? And then what happened actually after you gave birth? Was it the walk in the park you had expected, if at all you did? And then thirdly, how did you hear about me? How did you end up in my office? Yes. And what was your experience like that? Yes. So let's have
Well, to start off, I remember coming to your office when we were at week 10.
Oh.
Yeah. So, of course, it's rare that, you show up to a consultant's office for good vibes, or like to be encouraged that, you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You probably go there in crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so for me, at that point, I felt like, are we going to do this? And in my mind, when I was pregnant, I always knew I'll breastfeed. At least I had planned to breastfeed for a year because this thing is natural.
Right.
the baby has been grown inside of me. So we're going to have this amazing bond from birth. I'll look at him and stare into his eyes and it'll be love at first sight and he'll just come to breast and amazing, right?
Yes.
Not amazing at all. Well, what I can confirm is, at least, one of the things I'm grateful for, the hospital where I gave birth was very big on skin to skin. So immediately I had that, skin to skin experience. I put him on and he latched himself. I was like, oh, natural.
Right.
Like I expected, of course. In fact, I kept falling asleep and I would wake up to him, suckling at the breast. I was like, okay, you know what you're doing.
Right.
Amazing. So no pain.
Yeah.
And then I think it was maybe the next day the very next day, a doctor came by and told me, baby looks a bit, like they're weak and maybe they're not getting as much milk. So they do that blood sugar test and confirm, baby looks a bit, needs a boost. So I was given 2 options. Should we do some formula or do that glucose? I think an IV. I was like, an IV, pain,
Right.
Let's just do formula. Kasa, it's a one-off. This is just to help here, like a bridge, and then, that right there is what I think started my journey of, I want to say laziness maybe.
Okay.
Because now, at that time I thought it was laziness. I've come to learn or understand that formula stays longer. So baby is not as hungry as they need to be and meaning they're not coming to breast as much. Anyway, so of course now formula keeps coming into play every now and then. And for me, I kept feeling like, but when I put you on the breast, you get off crying. Meaning you're not getting enough milk.
Yes.
Now, of course, I was starting to get frantic. So I guess sometimes I wasn't even noticing how I was doing it. Now the latch inside to become painful. So now with pain, I started saying, I must avoid this painful thing. If I can feed you with formula, better that you're fed than we're in pain and you're unhappy. Now you're coming, then you're biting. Not biting, but like clamping down really hard on the boob. Anyway, so I attempted to see a specialist. I tried. We had a conversation, but I still felt like a certain number of things were not addressed.
Yes.
When we had the conversation, I felt confident. 2-3 days later, I was like, I still don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, and started to get, I think, worse. And now whenever baby would cry, I would just be so traumatized. I'd be like, now I don't know to feed you. Like, what do I do? And I kept getting into panic mode. So I reached out to a friend. I'm like, this breastfeeding thing, you did it for, I think she breastfed close to 2 years. Like, how? You went through pain. You went through all this chaos. You sat up at night watching your baby cry. How did you do it? Said, no, I know someone who might be able to help with these things. So I first reached out to her and see. And then she reached out to you. And then I think you sent back a message saying, oh, that's a poor latch and this and that. I can help with all of that. I was like, you can? I'm coming. I will be there.
Yes.
And so I ended up in your office after drinking eating this, eating that,
Right.
Almost having to breastfeed upside down. Generally, I had tried it all. Yeah.
Oh. Well, and I was glad to see you. I recall when you came to the office, the breast milk supply had gone really low.
Yeah.
The baby was latching very poorly and we were mostly formula feeding, right? Yes.
So I remember when we came, it was quite the experience. Now, because I had seen one before, I thought it was going to run the same way.
Yes.
But in the moment, also, TikTok has been filling your mind and all of this. The first time I had ever heard of an IBCLC was probably like a few either days or weeks to me giving birth. And now I ended up also giving birth not at the planned time. What I mean is I went in to see my gyne and said, I'm not releasing you. We are going to have this baby. I said, amazing. That was the week I had planned to do all my breastfeeding research because remember, it's supposed to be natural.
We just need a week to prepare.
Yeah, just like a week, like 2 days,
Yeah.
In fact, the only things I hadn't like really planned to get were like I think a pump. I was considering it was like, oh, some people pump, some people don't. Me, I want to have baby on my breast. Maybe when I'm going back to work, maybe then. Anyway, so that was the very first time I had like thought of a lactation consultant. I didn't even know if I needed one. Also, a friend who had given birth at the hospital I gave birth at had mentioned that before she left, they brought around, a lactation consultant to have a chat, and some people opted out, some people opted in. But she's like, let me just try, because the first child I had, it was a bit tricky. But she helped me. So I was like, maybe I'll also call her to, come in and we have a chat. So when she came, I was like, oh, you've come to talk about breastfeeding. This thing that is natural. Okay, let's have a chat. Yeah. So, yeah, it was my first time to see a Ugandan one.
A lactation consultant.
Yeah. She said, we have them in Uganda. I think a long time ago, I had seen a video of you. And the thought that crossed my mind is, Bambi, she's just passionate about breastfeeding, this chick. It's so cute. But I didn't really know what you really do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess there are many of us like that.
Okay. So a lactation consultant, yes, is passionate about breastfeeding, but not just passionate. So my credential is IBCLC. So an IBCLC is the highest credential in the field of breastfeeding and lactation. So that's someone who has been trained in the clinical management and so many other things about breastfeeding. So yes, there are people passionate about breastfeeding, breastfeeding advocates, maybe breastfeeding counselors, people with an interest and a passion in it. But then as an IBCLC, that's a person who is much more than that. That person has experience, expertise, a lot of training, professional training at that. They are able to provide that kind of support and help with different breastfeeding issues, complex breastfeeding issues, simple breastfeeding issues, all types of breastfeeding issues. So why I always advise pregnant moms, first-time moms, or a mom with any kind of traumatic or not exactly pleasant breastfeeding history is that when you have a session with a lactation consultant, especially before you give birth, preferably before you give birth, first of all, you can get to know what to really, truly, truly expect after you deliver about breastfeeding. So if there are any kind of abnormalities to your breast, they can be addressed earlier. Some of the most common ones are flat nipples and inverted nipples. If you've had a history of engorgement, mastitis, things like that, you can raise them during that session and you can be guided on how to avoid them. But what that session usually does is it actually gives you what's really going to happen in the first 3 days, what you should really expect, what you should do, what you should expect and what you should do. So we'll have things like, what are the common problems mothers are likely to face? How do you avoid that? How do you handle it if at all it does happen to you? Usually, I'll give you an example of engorgement. Engorgement is when the mother's breast is full of milk, but it's just not coming out. So the breasts just start to swell and get even more painful. Do you know what people usually do? They just get the pump and pump it by force out. Or there are all sorts of things that they do. Or they get a hot cloth and squeeze the breast. Now, I'll tell you that none of those is the correct way to go about engorgement.
Really?
Yes, none of those.
Anyway.
None of those.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
So there's a proper way that you're supposed to actually go about it that doesn't involve squeezing the mother's breast with hot water, forcing it out. No. Yes. So you'll find now, for example, in your case, clearly no one told you about the danger of a low demand. Because if you're giving formula, that means you're breastfeeding less times in the day. Most mothers think that what I need to have enough milk is drink as much porridge as I can, drink as much water, eat katunkuma and all of that. There are things that you can eat or drink that boost your milk supply. They're called galactagogues, and there's a whole other time that we shall discuss that. But they have their place. And you'll find that there are other things that actually lead to either increasing or reducing your breast milk supply way before you get to what you're eating or drinking. Now that one, to convince a Kampala mother that drinking a flask of porridge every single hour is not going to help you if you're having breast milk supply issues, that may not be an easy one. So you find that, for example, I'll give you one thing that is important when it comes to how much milk a mother is able to produce, the demand. how much milk is getting out. So after you give birth, your body needs you to be removing milk from your body at least 8 times in 24 hours. And that can be through pumping, it can be through breastfeeding. But if you're breastfeeding once a day, you're breastfeeding twice a day and the rest of the time you're giving formula, and nobody has told you that this is going to affect your supply. If you're not, in the night, our bodies produce the most prolactin. We produce actually most of our breast milk in the night. That hormone that drives your body to produce breast milk is mostly produced at night. So you'll find a mother who is breastfeeding during day, but at night they give formula. So that means in the night there's no demand for breast milk. They are not pumping, they are not breastfeeding. And so where that lands us is a mother who eventually that supply is actually affected, because when you're not breastfeeding, that your body starts producing less and less of that hormone in the night, and it will affect your milk supply overall. But now you find a mother who that's the actual cause of why her breast milk is reducing. But first she thinks it's because I'm not taking enough water. So you can find someone with liters and liters of water, of porridge, of katonkuma, of what. But the issue that's causing her breastfeeding problems is there's something wrong with her demand. And of course, now when we are talking about demand and we are dealing with working mothers, so a lactation consultant can help you to find out how you can navigate that. I am working a day job, I have a baby, but I work with moms who I help to still be able to exclusively breastfeed, have enough supply for their babies, even while working away from their babies. So a lactation consultant, first of all, is not just a passionate person about breastfeeding. They are also a professional. They are highly trained, they are highly qualified, and they are very experienced. By the time you become an IBCLC, you have to have a certain amount of experience that you've accumulated in the clinical work with breastfeeding. So please know, we are not just passionate, also very professional. And there are breastfeeding problems that mothers go through that a simple class before giving birth would have just sorted a lot of those things. Yes.
I think for me, sitting in the session with you made me realize that there's so many myths and very few facts out there. Drink gallons and gallons of water. Then you mentioned that it can actually have a negative effect.
When it's extreme.
So it's like, okay, but we've been told to, drink. Then the whole, eat this, drink that. I actually know a lady who was so frustrated. She's like, everyone keeps telling me to eat. The only thing happening is I'm gaining weight and there's no milk. But I'm eating. Like I eat, I don't skip meals. I'm drinking the flask of porridge. I'm, doing it all. And so for me, I think sitting in that session made me realize that we really do need the information. In fact, it made me think about the 2 other medical specialists that were very big on promoting, make sure you do regular checkups, a dentist and a gynecologist. Every lady I think is told, routinely go to your gyne and just check. You just need to check. A dentist, at least a year, you need to schedule at least 2 appointments to check the health of your teeth and everything. And I think it's very important for us to start going the direction of when you're pregnant. Because honestly, I keep telling my friends who've had children before me, why didn't you tell me?
Right.
You should have told me that this thing is 1, not easy, 2, not obvious, and 3, just because you're doing it, between you and your baby, it's not necessarily natural. You can do it. It's a learned skill, but it's not going to come obviously. Like after baby is born, you put on the breast. Wonderful. Because now as learning things.
What stood out the most for you in that session that really changed your breastfeeding journey?
The latch.
Yes, I thought so.
The latch. I think the pain had just been too immense that I said, I really want to feed you. But if we are continuing like this, I think I'll be friends with my pump. And you shall feed you with a bottle. It's not a bad thing. I mean, there are people who pump and baby still gets the milk. And yet, ideally, I'd always wanted to breastfeed directly. but the pain,
It was too much.
it was too much.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I had watched all these videos on YouTube, watched on TikTok, watched, on the latch, the idea, bring baby nipple to nose, then hold them at this angle like this. And I was doing all of that. And then I learned. So it's not a one size fits all type of latch. Different breasts have different latches.
Yes. I'll just elaborate for our viewers because they may wonder, latch, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
So a latch means how is the baby's mouth when they're on the breast. So we have two types of latches. We have a bad latch and we have a good latch. So if this is our breast, if your baby's mouth is just on the nipple, we call that a bad latch. So it's a bad latch for the baby, it's a bad latch for the mother, and it's a bad latch for your supply. So it's a bad latch for the baby because when the baby is just has their mouth on the nipple, they really struggle to suck out the milk. You'll notice actually when a baby's on a bad latch, they do something like, if you can see what's happening with my cheeks, some of them do that, then others you may hear a click sound. So there are different things that can cause a baby to be poorly latched, but the biggest cause most times is the mother's breastfeeding technique. It's bad for the mother because in that struggle to actually pull milk from the breast, the baby ends up damaging the mother's nipple. That's how mothers say, I'm feeling pain while breastfeeding. Get that pain progresses to sores, which progress to wounds. Sometimes they bleed. So the biggest myth mothers are told when they complain that I'm feeling pain while breastfeeding, is this how it should be? They are told, no, that is normal, my friend. You're now a mother.
Like all of us.
It's supposed to hurt. There are many things which hurt about pregnancy or child delivery or motherhood, but breastfeeding is not supposed to be one of them. If you have pain in your nipple, there's a problem. Yes. So if the latch is bad, the first sign you'll usually have is that you have pain in your nipple. It's not always that the technique is wrong. Sometimes it can be that the baby has certain oral issues that need to be addressed. But the one thing that's sure is that you should never tolerate it. Ever. There's no being strong. It is not true that nipples toughen. They do not. They just get damaged and get worse. And it does progress to worse experiences. So once the nipples now crack, bacteria can get in there. A mother can get mastitis, clogged ducts, and a host of other problems. Then a bad latch is bad for the supply because when the baby cannot remove milk properly from the breast because they are poorly latched, it will cause milk to constantly stay in your breast. And once you have your milk staying in your breast more than 3 hours, and that keeps happening, you start to notice that within a few days, you used to have a higher supply and now it's starting to drop, starting to drop even further. There's no amount of porridge. There's no amount of water. There's no amount of kwantunkuma that will help you to increase your supply if the reason your breast milk is reducing is because your latch is bad. Yes. So then by contrast, we have the good latch where the baby's mouth is more on the areola. On a bigger part of the areola. So as signs of a good latch will be that the baby takes in milk comfortably. You'll notice it's their chin that's going up and down more than their cheeks. More than that, you feel painless. It's painless. You shouldn't be feeling pain in the breast while you're latching the baby. And then you've seen those women who say, I have a lot of milk, but my baby is never satisfied on the breast. Or my baby prefers the bottle to the breast. They are so fussy when they're at the breast. There are so many things that can cause that. But one of the main things is the baby is poorly latched. Yes. And of course, as you know from our session, and the mothers who've attended my classes, because I do a breastfeeding masterclass every so often, hopefully this year it will be more frequent. There are 3 things you're supposed to do as a mother to make sure that the latch is right. But I like what you said about the latch, that we have different sizes of breasts, orientations of our breast. There are mothers who have breasts that, point forward. Others are a bit more tubular. They are facing downwards. You'll find a mom whose breasts orient a bit outward. And so you may find that the way to get a good latch, you find moms with a much bigger bust, a medium bust, a smaller bust. So you may have the concept of this is a good latch, this is a bad latch. But to put it in your own concept, you may watch all the TikTok videos. You may watch all the YouTube videos, but you need that personal touch of a lactation consultant who is experienced, knows what they're doing, they're well trained, and tells you now, according to your breast size, your breast orientation, your baby as well, this is the way you're going to achieve that good latch. Yes.
Maybe my question would be, because I felt like it was a myth, and I think you talked about it. Does breast size have anything to do with how well you feed your child?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So your breast size, I know I've had people say people with small breasts have more breast milk than people with larger breasts. In the West, it's the opposite. They think the opposite. So yes and no, because yes, let me start with no. No, because as long as your breasts are well developed, you can breastfeed as much as possible. You can have enough breast milk for your baby. And your breast milk supply is driven by other factors that are not to do with your breast size. As to a small percentage, yes, because usually when a woman has larger breasts, they struggle to latch the baby. So usually women with larger breasts, because if they struggle to latch the baby, sometimes you may feel because they are trying so hard not to suffocate the baby with their breast, so they end up just putting the baby on the nipple. So what's causing the breast milk supply to go down is to do with that technique of breastfeeding they're using, the way they are latching their baby. It's not to do that with the size of their breasts.
Okay.
Yes. So that's where it may be a bit, yes, but as you can see, it's actually not directly because of that.
Okay.
Yes.
I have so many myths that I when I was just in your office, it was a good opportunity to realize I don't have a problem. Yeah. Because they say to feel like this thing is so natural for everyone because no one really is seeking out help.
Yes.
And also, when I mentioned to some people that I was going to see someone just about breastfeeding, it was be like,
why would you do that?
But you've even been at your mom's home. Just sit with her and let her help you. And your sisters have all given birth and fed. But I would never say that to someone going to see a dentist.
Indeed. But is there information you got that you didn't get from sisters and mothers and friends?
100%. I mean, from the example of the thing you said, for it's not about just eating, drinking.
Yes.
That I would have never known if I had not seen, a specialist, a consultant, because it would have just been, eat and drink and you can list the things because everyone has a different thing. I know someone who told me Ribena gave them breast milk.
Wow, Ribena.
Yeah. I know someone who has said it's a strange sauce. Something. Okra gave them breast milk. Yeah. I know, I think, is it cornflakes? Just know that there's a world of yeah. So everyone, if you decide to like sim,
there's so many.
Yeah. So if you decided to shop everything, people it's like you what did you take? Fish.
You end up taking everything.
Like before you know it, you have like shopping for like a whole family. They're supposed to eat everything every day at this time because me, when I woke up at 2 and I drank that tea,
right?
It worked for me.
So I would like to address two things. First of all, the shame that comes around having breastfeeding problems. And then secondly, what you've said about, and also coming to see a specialist in the field, what you said about eating and drinking everything. So if drinking porridge, drinking water, katukuma and everything, if someone tells you, for me, I did that and it worked for me, you may not know there may be different circumstances, number one. They may not have other underlying issues that they were dealing with. But for the most part, I've done my work for 12 years. And for the most part, I have found that most mothers will tell you, I've drunk this, eaten this, drunk this, and they are taking every breast milk boosting cookie there is, every tea, every porridge, all the water, but they are still struggling to breastfeed their babies. They are struggling to have enough milk for their babies. So no mothers. They are galactagogues. As I said, those are things we shall talk about at some point in the podcast, that you can drink or eat to boost your milk supply, but they have their place and they cannot override underlying causes of why a woman's breast milk is reducing. I just want to talk about shame. Shame. It's the one thing, breastfeeding is the one thing which you have that quiet guilt and that quiet shame of, look at what other mothers are doing for their babies.
Yeah. And then
Look
they
at
see
my breasts doing nothing. My child is taking formula. Yeah. Of course, formula has very serious hazards and side effects that we're going to touch just a little bit today. But the shame that comes with it usually is shame you sit with, you keep quiet about. Maybe late in the night, you can cry about it and watch a few videos about how to get better. But then the information overload. This TikToker says this, the other YouTuber says that. And usually that's one of the values of a session, is that you get to know what's fact, what's myth, and then what's individual to my situation. But the moms who feel your mother-in-law or your mother can come and say, me, I used to have milk. Now you look at yourself, you know. You get shame from family, you get shame from friends, and then even that beating up yourself that comes from failing to breastfeed. But what I would like mothers to know is that it's normal to feel that kind of shame, but there is help. There's professional help. You can actually get to the root of your problem and have proper solutions that will actually work.
I think one of the other benefits of having had 1 or 2 sessions with you was, I remember coming in, and now because I've been on the internet, I've been on TikTok, I've been on YouTube, and so it used to be, I think the hashtag used to be breast is best. Now it's fed is best.
Oh dear.
And so I came to a place where, have conversations with people, be like, I'm really struggling with the breastfeeding thing, and they're like, I think it's going to take your mental, health away.
Care for our mental health.
Yeah. The best thing you can do is make sure baby is fed. And truth is, they came from a good place. Yeah.
Yes.
They really did come from a good place. But I think a number of times I would feel like, but I don't want to give up on breastfeeding. I feel like I'm being told to give up. And yet even that in itself, like I felt like I would keep building that pressure without necessarily getting the right help to just help me get into the path of like, do the breastfeeding well. I just kept searching videos. Hey, then I'm looking up. Then, of course, in the middle of all of my chaos, I see that article of certain formulas recalled as like, now I'm even killing my child. Yeah. So I think coming into the session and hearing, I think those are some things that you should say today about this whole formula, breast milk, fed is best, breast is best. Banage, what is best? At this point, yeah, are we just going about it blinded, or is there actual, like, factual information? And if I'm using the formula, am I killing my baby?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So today is our first episode. So some things we may not get into the real detail, but those are really valid questions, and I'm going to touch a bit on them. Now, we're going to have an episode where we extensively talk about formula, what it contains, where does it, what's its place, what's its history, and all of that. But just to answer your question a bit today, formula is fed-based breastfeeding. Fed is best was actually coined by formula companies, and we shall talk about that in detail later.
Okay.
Because there's nothing more false than that. There's an angle, of course, we're not going to let a baby starve.
Yeah.
And all of that. But we have a human body that does not care about trends. It has been the human body that was there thousands of years ago. It's still the human body that we have. The human body is constructed through the things we eat. I want you to imagine a house that's being constructed. When you're constructing a house, you use specific things to construct that house. You can't wake up and say, I didn't have cement, so I used sandpapers. I didn't have, bricks or stone or whatever, so I decided to use something else to substitute that cannot quite do the job the same. When a baby is born, their immune system is immature and not able to support their body against diseases and falling sick often. When a baby is born, their brain is not properly developed. It needs to grow. When a baby is born, their intestines and their digestive system is underdeveloped. It needs to grow. So many parts of a human baby, you've seen a baby, they really need to grow. And for those systems, for the baby to grow as they should, they actually need certain things to help them grow. And they get those things through what they eat. Okay? Let's start with the immune system. babies need a solid 2 years before their immune system can function as well as it should be. During that time, everything that grows the immune system, you cannot get anything that grows the immune system from formula.
Okay.
While breast milk, on the other hand, has so many components that build the immune system of that child. Number one, that protects the baby from falling sick as frequently as it would have been. But then something else is that quickens recovery in case a baby falls sick or gets any type of infection. So you find that a baby who has not breastfed as they should is a baby who is growing up with a disabled immune system. With an immune system that is going to, those babies usually, not that every baby, of course, there are miracles and we do believe in God, yeah? But the science, what it shows is that babies who have not breastfed optimally have higher chances of getting certain diseases, both in childhood and even their adulthood. Things like diabetes, childhood cancers, respiratory infections, ear infections, viral infections, bacterial infections, and those sorts of things. So you're not going to sit down the baby's immune system and tell it that, please feed this best. No. There are so many components a child misses out on when they miss out on breastfeeding that would have built their immune system. That's one. Number two, the brain. There are so many studies that have been done over the years that there are parts of the human brain that do not grow as they would have when a baby did not breastfeed optimally. And we'll get into the detail of that in future videos.
Okay.
We have found that babies who exclusively breastfed for longer periods, have much higher IQs than babies who have not breastfed. So I don't know, growing up, they used to tell us in Uganda, they say, it's like children who breastfed are very clever in class. So I don't know how true that is, but what I know is that the studies actually show that children who have breastfed optimally actually have higher IQs. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's so many studies, not just one study that was done. Then we get to the digestive system. So breast milk is so easy to digest for a reason. Babies are born when their intestines are still growing. They're fragile. So you'll find that babies on formula struggle with constipation, struggle with digestive issues. Some babies get infections like NEC, that's I won't go into the fullness of it. NEC, which can be actually fatal for premature babies, especially. Babies who are formula feeding usually struggle with that severe colic. Babies, they struggle with severe colic, indigestion, constipation, and things like that. That doesn't mean every baby that's on formula.
Yeah.
But studies actually show that many of them do struggle with that. By contrast, babies who are exclusive breastfeeding, first of all, breast milk comes with certain components that help the baby's intestines mature much faster than a baby who is formula feeding. Then, breast milk, much as it's very easy to digest, most mothers think that means it's light. It doesn't have... In fact, what mothers usually say is that formula is heavy. When I give my baby formula, it sits in the stomach very well, my friend. That's because the baby is not digesting it as quick as they ought to, as they do breast milk. Actually, breast milk has a lot more nutrients than formula does. Just because formula sits in the stomach for long does not mean it's more nutritious. Breast milk has way more nutrients than formula, but it's just that it's easily digested. And that question of mom saying, my baby doesn't get satisfied at the breast, sometimes it can have to do with, as we've talked about, it can have to do with a latch. The baby is not having good output when they're at the breast. It can have things to do with so many other factors, but it can never be that breast milk is light to mean that it doesn't have enough nutrients for that baby.
Okay. Yeah. I think what I hear you saying is that if you are able, by all means,
yes,
breastfeed.
Yes.
So, because I know that now someone's picking up their phone to type in the comment section, you're guilting the moms who didn't breastfeed. No, I don't think so. I think it's when you know better, you do better.
That's true.
I think because honestly, because I'm such a chronic scroller when I'm looking for answers, I've seen people saying, when you walk into a kindergarten, you can't point out who's formula fed and who's breastfed. That's true, but I don't think you're trying to shame like mothers who formula fed in the past or didn't have this information, and so they went by, what was easy. I know someone, I was actually reading, someone just sharing, saying if they had known, they wouldn't have, dried up their supply as fast as they did. But they just said, why should I breastfeed? I mean, there's formula, I can just buy the formula. It's the same thing, let's just feed the child, feed and, keep it going, as long as they're fed. But, now that the science, the professionals are coming forward to tell us, there's a lot more with the breast milk. If you can, even a drop. I was actually watching a lady saying, even you who feels like the supply is very low, even that little, just ensure that you're giving it. Just don't fall back to the, let me just do the formula failed. No, whatever little you can, still,
That's true. Actually, the thing about shaming mothers who did not breastfeed, that's a whole conversation right there. But this is what you should know. There is a dangerous shift to mothers, parents, and families honestly believing that formula is the same as breast milk. So let us start there. It is not. It is not, and that's a conversation we shall always keep having. Actually, one of my roles as an IBCLC is to always protect, promote breastfeeding.
Yes.
It's a conversation we shall always have. So if it makes you feel like, I'm feeling ashamed, I am so sorry, but we are going to have that conversation. It is not the same. And a child who has not breastfed has surely missed out on a lot. Yeah, that's number one. But then number two, many mothers fail to breastfeed, not because they don't want to breastfeed, not because they are lazy, but because they encountered problems that made it impossible for them to continue breastfeeding. If a mother doesn't have enough breast milk for their child and they don't get that professional help to assess where that problem is coming from and how to solve it, most likely they're not going to breastfeed. In fact, most mothers who fail to breastfeed are very guilty about it. So a lot of this backlash we end up seeing of, but you're shaming us. It's actually a mother who's guilty within. So it's not an opportunity to exactly fight and wage war, but how can we help them? Other mothers coming after you not to go through that? That's two. Number three, I'll maybe highlight a few other issues mothers experience that cause them not to breastfeed. Breast abnormalities and nipple abnormalities that actually have solutions that mothers don't know about. Babies failing to latch for any reason, abnormalities with the mouth, oral function, or technique of breastfeeding. We'll have mothers who honestly don't have the right information. They just did not know. I've worked with some mothers from Sudan. For some reason, please Sudanese, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the ones I've worked with, I've worked with a lot of affluent mothers in some of the hospitals I work in, and when particularly they feel like formula is for rich people. Like, it's poor people who breastfeed and I have my money. Are you not seeing the room I booked? Are you not seeing the hospital I booked to give birth in? And I've had conversations with mothers convincing them that, Madam, you are rich, yes, but formula is not a statement of affluence. It's actually not the best option for your child. This is how you can go about it. So mothers, some of them honestly don't know. We have pressure from family and friends where mothers honestly get shamed and discouraged into formula feeding. Those are all reasons. And then we have very heavy marketing that is put in by formula companies to push a certain narrative. There was a time when women were told, if you smoke, when they were promoting cigarettes, if you smoke, you look rich, you look empowered, you look all these things. So sometimes there are narratives pushed about formula that actually you may think are coming from a mother, but they are targeted marketing from formula companies. And I'm honestly glad that we are having this space where we can now talk about such things and separate fact from myth. Yes.
Yeah. So it was really lovely having support, because ultimately I think that's what lactation consultants are for, to give support and to encourage us that the war can be won.
That's
you can do it.
Thank you so much for giving us your perspective. So what were the outcomes of just having that knowledge and that professional support? How are you now? How did it help?
Okay.
and then also give us some concluding remarks.
Cool. Yeah. So one of the things, so I have a sister who's been with me pretty much from day one since I gave birth till, eventually I moved back home. And my sister watched me go from pumping almost less than an ounce. Okay, so 30 mils less than, sometimes it hits like 10 or 20 there, to now being able to, in a whole day, because like collectively I'd always like collect how much I have, like a data thing I try to keep up. So I went I'm trying to be. So of course after the session I had with you, I went from pumping maybe collectively in a day 170 mils, which some people of our suppliers on the internet be showing us they pump in one go. Anyway,
right.
I went from pumping that in a whole day to now hitting, I think, close to 400 mils. And just for me seeing those numbers, almost tripling what I was making before, felt like it could not be possible. Or even being able to put baby to breast, because now, ever since our sessions, in the night, he only feeds on the boob. Yeah. And if he doesn't get full, then we top up still breast milk. Yeah. But still, even being able to breastfeed him sometimes and he falls asleep to show that he's full, I'm just like,
I remember when you came in, he was actually refusing the breast. Weren't we at that point?
Yeah, he was like, that hassle of knowing that, when I come here, sometimes the milk, it will come, but as if,
but now you're feeding in the night.
Yeah.
The supply is up.
Yeah.
The latch is good, I hope.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And, to be able to put him, now I can tell, that because when I latch him, if there's pain, I'm like, we've done something wrong. We go again. When I put him back and there's no pain, there's just like a heavy tugging. Like, you know what to do. Let's do it together. Let's work together, right? And so to be able to see, it's like night and day, really. Yeah. And for all my friends and like family who have been involved in this craziness of Banage, today you cried yourself to sleep. Why baby refused your boob? It's been all of this crazy stuff. But I just want to encourage you.
Yeah.
If you're a mother, whether first time or 8th, 9th child, and breastfeeding is normally the thing that gets you feeling like banange. Here we go again. Because I know people who are like, no, breastfeeding is painful. It's just one of those things as women, you have to be hard. No, we don't have to be hard. Yeah. I know that maybe in the beginning days, it might still be a bit, try and figure out the latch, but you don't have to figure it out alone.
Yeah.
I mean, if there are people who have learned these things, how we go to school to learn math, we can go to, the specialists to learn how to do the thing.
That's true.
And I know that there's a lot of, especially with the older generation, feeling like, we did those things ourselves and, we didn't need someone to come in and assist us. But help is not bad.
That's true.
We shouldn't be in suffering Olympics trying to win awards
for suffering.
For suffering, yes.
I'll tell you a funny story. I had a mother who came for one of my breastfeeding classes and she was pregnant. So when she gave birth, we had covered in the class when to know that something is not right with your breastfeeding, like maybe when you're feeling pain or breast and things like that. We covered that. So she came in for a consult and her mother was, I'm hoping to host her on our child. Her mother was actually a lecturer at the university and she was like, how can you waste money like that? How can you say you're going to see a lactation consultant? Like, what is that? So the mother said, I have to go to see what special thing this, lady is teaching you that we are spending this money, And when she attended the session, she was so full of questions. And I remember she told me, I'm going to tell every young girl to come. Yes. Because there's the older generation.
Yeah.
We are going to have a special episode and we are going to host our mothers.
Yes, because
to tell them we need these sessions.
Yeah.
And I remember I would love to really hear her perspective because she told me I didn't know because this lady, there was something about her breast that they were not abnormal, but there was a certain, I don't want to get into details, that she couldn't latch her baby well in that normal breastfeeding position. So she had to switch. Yeah. And the mother said, I had never seen this position. Yeah. I didn't know that we have different orientations of our breasts and all these things. And I remember she has sent me so many clients. I have to host her. Yes, so I'm glad you also spoke to the older generation.
Yeah.
Yes, for the most part, it could have been easy for some of them. But there are many who will tell you, I met a mother who told me, a mother to my client who said, for me, I never saw a lactation consultant and I honestly was fine. I didn't need that kind of help. So I asked her, so how was your breastfeeding? She said, well, my babies would breastfeed, but my milk would disappear around 3 months. And I always had wounds, but it was fine. What was fine about that?
Nothing.
So should your daughter also go through that?
No. And so I think it's very important, if you have the opportunity to not suffer the way someone else did, someone is willing to help, to hold your hand, take that opportunity. Like, don't suffer. Honestly, now I think about it, like for my next child, there's no room for suffering. None at all.
No.
No one is giving out praises. No one is saying, yeah, oli mukazi waguma. I don't want to kuguma. There are other things in this life to kuguma for,
but not breastfeeding.
Not that one.
Yeah. Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you for
having me. I call you DJ Harsh.
It's all right. It's okay.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us as a first-time mom and as a client who gave me a chance to make a difference in your breastfeeding journey. Yes, so thank you for watching our very first episode. I would like to say that this podcast is not for everyone, and that's not in a bad way. Let me explain. I worked with a mother recently, and without giving out too much information, this mom had lost about 3 babies, and she was having her 4th baby, and I was called in to assist with breastfeeding in one of the places where I work. And I remember she had such a traumatic story about how she had lost her previous 3 babies, and she was already now having more trauma from not having enough breast milk, struggling with breastfeeding. And I remember my heart was quite broken about that, because I thought, after all those traumas, breastfeeding should not be another trauma for this mother. And I was more than glad to work with her, to help her with her supply, to help her with her latch. And we worked very well together. She managed to get solutions to those issues, and she became much happier and much more successful with her breastfeeding. So when I say that this podcast is not for everybody, the point I'm trying to make is that there are mothers, there are parents who actually really need this information, really need this help, and really need this kind of conversation. So if you know anyone who you feel will benefit from this, please share this with them. If you fall in the category of people who feel, this is not for me, this is quite trivial, please. We appreciate your time today, but you can follow maybe other platforms. But if you know someone who's pregnant and hoping to breastfeed, please don't just hope to breastfeed. Come and get the right information. Come and get the right advice, the right thing, so that you can actually successfully breastfeed. If you know someone who is struggling with breastfeeding, this is their community. If you know parents who just want to learn about how to feed their babies the best way, people want to prepare for breastfeeding the best way, please, this is your community. You've arrived. If you're a health worker or just an everyday person who is interested in the topic of breastfeeding, you're passionate about advocating for breastfeeding, protecting breastfeeding, supporting breastfeeding, this is your community. So the Breastfeeding Uganda podcast is about building a community where mothers, parents, families, health professionals, policymakers can actually have meaningful and factual conversations around breastfeeding. So see you next week. Subscribe, share with someone who needs it, and we hope to see you next week. Thank you.
Bye-bye.